So with that, Megan, with your branded mug, welcome to Beyond the Breaker.
Thank you.
And my hope is, while everybody's nervous when we start out, that we just kind of like chill out and relax a little bit over time, because other folks need to know you. Other folks need to kind of understand the HR group and some of the fun stuff that y'all are doing. I know sometimes fun and HR don't go together in some people's minds.
For me, it does. Every day.
For you, but you're an HR nerd.
Yeah, I am.
And I understand that my co-host will join us in a little bit. It'll be weird when he drops in, but we'll just roll with it.
Sounds good.
So, yes, we want to talk about HR, but we also want to know a little bit about Megan Clyne. Because, for a lot of folks spread all over the country, in the field, in the office, they don't interact with you on a daily basis. So kind of give us the origin story, whatever that means to you, as it relates to Megan Clyne.
Got it.
Want some personal, want some work stuff,
Yeah.
Why are you here and why are you doing what you do?
Okay. Well, let's start. I mean, I did go to school for HR, but I guess, school can be one of many paths that people take down the road. Mine has just been, I guess, somewhat aligned. But I went to school, lived in La Crosse, graduated, moved up here. I'm from South Central Minnesota.
You have to name drop your small town.
I am from New Ulm, so shout out to Paul's. Woohoo.
There we go. There we go.
And then started here at a property management company, which is really funny because it's quite full circle. It is the property management company that bought our St. Paul location.
So when you say like you started here, you meant in the Twin Cities market as a professional, new college grad?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So worked there for a little bit, went back to La Crosse. My then boyfriend, now husband.
Is he ever going to get a name?
Brad. Yes.
Oh, Brad.
Yeah, Brad.
Excellent.
Brad is his name. But he went to school there. So we moved back and then worked at a manufacturing company, which is funny because that's all full circle too.
Right.
And then started here at Hunt. Started more on the payroll benefits side, then eventually took on a couple more of like the HR areas, recruitment, some employee relations.
Sure.
And it's just really blossomed and evolved. I can't say that even the 6 months have been the same the whole 10 years I've been here. So it's been super exciting, but it's fun to see kind of the thread throughout some of my previous work experiences prior to Hunt come full circle.
Yeah, and like we're not even talking about like chakras and crystals and like that stuff in the universe, but somehow it feels like you've been building this sort of experience around yourself to really be ready to help lead the HR group at Hunt.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, I don't spend time for the most part on projects and in jobs, but I think, coming from a place of here to support whoever's in the field feels true. There's a little bit of construction in my family history, and so that's kind of exciting and fun. Just personally, my dad's worked in the trades as well. My grandma.
And we've got time. This is like long format.
Okay.
Like, tell us a little bit about what your dad did in the trades and like why you didn't follow in his footsteps.
Yeah, so he worked at the gas department for our city, the local New Ulm, city of New Ulm. For many years, he also dabbled a little bit in some other areas. I mean, I would say for him, summers...
Like he had a side hustle or he was doing other things
kind
for
of,
the city?
Right. No, he did work full-time for the city, but yeah, I would say him and his buddies did have side hustles.
All right.
Summers were spent shingling, so I was kind of... I don't want to elevate it more, but, had a little bit of taste of I'm there to pick up shingles and nails and make sure that the job site is clean. Not getting paid for that. That was just here, bring dad some dinner and help out since you're there. But I loved it and it was fun. I like being busy. My grandparents had a concrete business and then my grandpa passed away in the 80s. But it was kind of cool because my grandma took over. So she ran the show and got the work, rounded up the whole crew to make sure that it was done.
Whoa.
I think there's some pride there too. I think some of the projects they did, the concrete is not cracked yet. And that's pretty remarkable, right?
That's really cool.
So it just feels like it's been a part of my world.
If you don't mind, like say a little bit more about, your grandma in the 80s taking over a concrete and masonry company in, I'm going to say southern Minnesota, not an urban area. I can't even imagine the challenges that would be. Do you remember any stories growing up where she shared things or things that you kind of picked up from, watching some of that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think just the way you show up to work every day was very relevant. One, you have to show up on time, be ready, and be ready to work and roll up your sleeves. I mean, her style was laying the concrete and spreading it and setting all of it up. She was right there with everybody else. So really that team mentality and we're all here together, that held true, I would say. And also it's funny because she is a soft, arms wide open, very warm and welcoming person. And I think, run the show.
But I think you would say that about most concrete folks.
Yeah.
Right? Warm, open arm. Well, no, not a chance. But that's cool. Like she brought that other dynamic to it.
Yeah. She found the nice balance of we're here to get the job done, make sure that the customer's happy, and also we can still really enjoy spending time together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which feels like a lovely unplanned segue.
Yeah.
Like talk a little bit about how that's an attitude that you're bringing and you're experiencing here at Hunt. One of the things we talk about a lot here is, a very people-centric view. Yes, let's talk about some of the benefits and things, but how is that mentality of having expectations and holding people accountable, but also like treating them like real human beings? How do you see that at Hunt?
Yeah, I think at least from the HR lens here, and I would say this podcast really sets the platform because it's not just the HR lens. I think a lot of really the culture here is seeing the person first. So it's very easy to have HR be, what's the policy and what's the handbook? And yes, that is a part of all things HR. Yeah. But I think first and foremost, it's when somebody's coming to share with you maybe something fun that they did over the weekend, or a really cool, exciting project that they're working on, or perhaps something personal is coming up and it's maybe not a fun conversation, but they're looking for support. I think really hearing and listening to the person is really where it starts. And I hope that, most employees approach any conversation with that style. Yes, we can balance and get the work done, but also we're all humans, and the more we can be willing to listen and kind of understand where people are coming from, I think that's what's really allowing Hunt and supporting our success and our new adventures that we have in front of us.
That's so great, and not that this is all about me or anything, but I'll often do that sort of thing. As I've come up through the trades, I started back in the late 90s as a carpenter, and the mentality, we talked about it a little bit with Jared Kinneberg when he was on, but that mentality of just, suck it up and bury your feelings and just do your work is so different today, 25, almost 30 years later. And I'm so encouraged by it. Like I think it's such a great thing that we do as an industry, but I really love the way that we're shaping that here at this company. As you think about the trades and your job as an HR person, lady, you do a lot of office functions, but how do you engage with the field from an HR perspective? And I know there's probably some funky details about collective bargaining and union agreements, but how do you engage with the field and support them with that same sort of people-centric, see the person, listen to them?
Yeah. Well, when I think about how I can maybe help, or how our HR team can help support any employee, field or office, my goal is that our teams are reaching their potential, that they're seeing the opportunity and we're moving forward, right? I want progress. I want to have opportunities for everyone. But I think from a field standpoint, the support may not be, we know all of the answers, or our team has all of the details, right? Because there are a number of collective bargaining agreements tied to our Hunt world. And I think at the end of the day, as long as we can connect people with the right resources as soon as possible so that they can get answers and support in the right mechanism, that's a success. That's a win. And it may also be supporting some collaboration in a sense of, this topic came up, or this is something in front of us. If there's maybe the blessing that I can connect some other people. Hey, so-and-so just went through this as well. They might be another resource. Not everybody wants to hear HR folks be the only ones speaking. And so, you know what? go to another employee who maybe has had a similar experience, and you guys can swap notes or see how together you guys can collaborate and move things forward. So sometimes we get pulled in just from a resource availability standpoint, and other times it might just be some collaboration or behind the scenes work.
So, for just a moment, speak to that, fourth or fifth period apprentice or the new J-dub. If they've got some challenges or don't know where to get the answers, and they're listening to this or watching this, what would you tell them as a step to engage the HR team and lean on your resources and experience? Yeah,
I think definitely, if you're at the end of the day, if you're confused about who to contact, you always can contact us. We may not be able to round out the full conversation, but we'll get you to the right person. And I think that's how a lot of the conversations or calls come through is, I don't even know if you're the right person.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We can get you to the right people.
I've had to do that thing where I've contacted you or somebody else on the team. It's like, I think you're the right person. And even if they weren't, I got connected to the right person straight away. So it's helpful. You guys are doing okay there.
Okay, great.
I've got a pile more questions and topics that I want to touch, but you were sharing before we started rolling on this that you had some topics that you wanted to hit. Megan, today is your day.
I'm going to let you take the lead, Ben.
Okay. I have heard a slightly sticky rumor that perhaps you have engaged in some home remodeling projects over the years, and that you maybe have done them on a few houses before. So first and foremost, is that sticky rumor true?
I mean, yes.
Okay, nope, that was it. You just said yes.
A little bit. But when I say home improvement projects, I feel like it's very home DIY. These are not elaborate projects by any means.
So are you saying that none of us should buy a former home of yours?
Actually, no. I would like to say we've elevated it a little bit instead of taking a step back.
Okay. So let's kind of tuck into some of this. Home remodeling is challenging for any homeowner, and if folks are listening and you're saving money for that first or second home, whatever it might be, it's a beast, right? Like it's a huge challenge to get into. I'm significantly older than you are, and so I've done plenty of that my own self. And coming up as a carpenter, it was nice to be able to hang my own door or swap out a window or reside the house.
Yeah.
So to just kind of set the table here, are you aware of Tom Hanks' greatest movie ever? And I'm thinking of 1986, The Money Pit. Have you ever seen it?
Oh my gosh. Okay. No, I haven't. So you're going to have to find another method to get into this fight.
No. To you and all the listeners. I thought you were
going to Forrest Gump.
No. You got it. I'm gonna stand on that. Tom Hanks' greatest role, The Money Pit.
Okay, that's my
worth
assignment.
watching. You can watch it on like B-level cable. Like it's great commercials or no. Not The Money Pit. Do you have like an inspirational home improvement show? Like, is there one of those that stands out to you?
No lie. I mean, pre-kid, I would say, that was a fun hobby. I can barely get the picture frame hung lately. So I feel like I really took a turn from, we did kind of a bathroom update, a couple calls of dad. Come and help me. I think I bit off more than I can chew.
Okay.
But I would say, a couple of HGTV shows would probably be the marker. My mom has quite the design eye too. So between my mom and my dad, I was,
this is perfect.
Hey, all hands on deck. I have a vision, but I don't know all the steps to get there. So utilize your resources, right?
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of PBS. So I loved things like This Old House, New Yankee Workshop, and like on Saturday mornings, I would just watch that stuff and like salivate.
Yeah.
Like Norm Abramson had so many clamps. He would just like make furniture and make doodads, and he's just like, oh, glue it, clamp it, glue it, clamp it. And I was like, how did you get so many clamps?
Yeah.
Still totally envious of that guy's wood shop. From there though, like I can build stuff, but I have zero like design eye. And I happened to find a well-known designer that I appreciated her work. So admittedly and a little embarrassingly, growing up, I also watched Martha Stewart Living. Really enjoy her taste in fabric and textures. It's getting a little weird here. But when I think about it, like if Martha Stewart would live in that house, I would probably like the decorations.
Yeah, probably.
but I can't pick out the colors. I can't do the stuff. So between you and Brad, who picks the colors, and he's going to listen to this, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be honest.
Yeah.
Who picks the colors?
I do. Yeah.
Ooh.
For sure.
Who picks the projects?
Usually me too.
I'm sensing a trend here, Megan.
I know.
Who decides when it's done?
If it were up to Brad, it would definitely be him. Usually it's, I can get it 80% there. And then we've got this, little thing that kind of lingers for a while. So.
Okay. And that sounds like a healthy adult relationship full of conflict and learning and growth. It's awesome.
Oh yeah. Home projects are great for.
They test you.
For that. Yes.
Holy crap. They test you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to move away from this in a little bit, but have you done any electrical heavy projects?
I not
voltage,
electrical heavy.
perhaps?
I may have rewired something.
Okay.
I mean,
and I'm
but
sure
honestly,
you pulled a
like,
permit and had the city inspector out and all that stuff.
Yes. Totally.
So, in this sort of imaginary scenario, you guys are going to do, you're going to add a room or something like that on your house, and there's significant electrical, but it's also going to be like a family entertainment room. So you're going to do some AV and low voltage integration. Super trick question. Can you name drop which general foreman you might like from Hunt Electric and which one you might like from ECSI?
Ooh.
Yeah. Politically incorrect, I know.
Jared stands out just because I was just rapping.
Yes.
Just learning.
Yeah.
And
Jared's awesome.
yeah. From ECSI, oh gosh. I don't know. I don't know what level. I don't know if he's a general foreman or a foreman. I'm not
It's okay.
sure,
Just
but
who is this magic person?
Tim Ashby and I've had a couple of conversations.
Great.
I do feel well supported. I feel like there's a long list. We have quite some depth here.
I don't disagree with you in the slightest, but I know that from here on out, Tim Ashby is expecting a contract, and, well, good luck, Tim. Hope it goes well for all of you. Moving away from the silliness of home improvement projects, talk a little bit about benefits things here. You and I are both pretty dang excited about the cool things that Hunt offers, as opportunities for employees, the way that we treat them, help educate folks, recruit them. I could go on and on and on, but we don't get to. So highlight for us a couple of things that you think are really snazzy about some of the benefits here at Hunt, and maybe even highlight some real differentiators, right? Because everybody will talk about, oh, well, we have a 401k match, or we have health benefits, but differentiate a couple things for us.
Yeah, I think just collectively we have a lot of benefits and resources. But I feel like there are three main pillars that stand out to me. One being employee ownership, or the ESOP. I think that's a huge differentiator for us, and really something that feels true to our culture in a ownership format. I would say our health, dental, vision, the fact that we pay 100% of the premiums. I think perhaps in the construction world, it might be common on the field side or the union side, but for the office employees, it's maybe not.
Only on the union side.
Yeah, it's really
workers.
not the norm on our non-union or non-collectively bargained side. And I think that's a huge differentiator, specifically because we look at it whether you are single or if you have family coverage. Doesn't matter. Hunt's taking care of 100% of the premium. And then the third one I feel like is the profit sharing. And that one has been very, it's been a part of the Hunt benefits package, the Hunt world, for decades. It's been very stable, very consistent for the most part. And I think it does, the three of those combined really do give our employees maybe a leg up to say, hey, as long as the employees are supported, at least in this area, hopefully that allows them to show up better, to have their needs met, to maybe reach some goals, not only current state, but two of those are retirement plans. And so reaching those long-term goals as well, where, our goal when we bring employees on is we hope that you're joining not because this is your next job, but because this is your next career. So looking at it from a current state, maybe, if you have medical stuff going on or dental needs or vision, you have your care. But also we want to take care of your future in the best way that we can, in a way that we can maybe give you a leg up so that you can stay here and make it a career.
Yeah.
So
love that. So I want to, you gave 3, I wrote them down so I would remember them. Talk a little bit more about an ESOP. This isn't meant to be, financial advising and structuring of corporate, doodads 101. Nope. But just give us a little taste of what an ESOP is, what it means to you, and how you've seen it, impact employees and attitudes around here.
Sure. So I guess at the 10,000 foot view, it's if we're all working together, giving our best, being collaborative, helping others, looking at it from a team mindset instead of an individual mindset.
What does that look like?
As in, if you have knowledge that might be beneficial to share with somebody, let's share it. Let's mentor each other. Let's be open to maybe hearing some feedback, right? Nobody's usually doing everything right, or we have blind spots.
Oh, gosh,
if we're willing to share that and offer that feedback, I think it pulls the whole group forward, not just that one individual. So that's kind of what I mean by...
So can I say it back and make sure I'm hearing you? So, the ESOP is like a thing that's about financial retirement and structure and things like that. But what you're seeing from an attitude perspective, like the way it manifests and we see other humans here, is we're a little more open to connect. We're a little more vulnerable. We're more willing to learn from each other. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope so. I mean, that takes work and it's hard and it doesn't come easy all the time, but I think that has allowed us to be better. Not every job goes well, and that's just life sometimes, but what did we learn? How can we utilize that going forward? How do we share that information or those lessons learned with other groups that maybe aren't running the same type of work, but there's most likely some nuggets that can help all of us move forward so that we can have continuous improvement. And so...
I promise you don't know everything. I don't know everything, but together we know just a little bit more, and that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the other of the 3 pillars that you talked about was the health, like dental and health plans, as individuals, as family members. And you're married to Brad. You guys have a kiddo, and I think you said somewhere that he's a couple, 2.5 years old.
Yep.
Did the benefits, and the health care, the way that we take care of you in the current state, did that make it easier for you guys to talk about how you wanted to be a family when you were ready to do that and know that you would have support at work? Yeah.
I mean, I think, health insurance premiums are wild right now. So for those of you who are paying for something, that's a huge expense for a lot of families. And I do think, it probably impacts even some family planning if that's in the cards or in somebody's, future of it costs money to have a family. But I think for us, it's maybe more reassuring. It's not just the premiums and the coverage, but there's also a couple of other tools and resources, whether it's through Blue Cross or internally, just with our organization. Time off becomes a part of it. Yeah. There's a lot of, variables that impact somebody's, whether it's a baby or a different surgery or some type of medical need that's going on. But I do feel like we try to have a support structure where, one, again, being employee first with, if an employee has a question, what does this mean? Okay, let's talk through that, because this is a lot. There's the financial impact. There's the time off. There's maybe just the nuances of your job and how that works, and how can we maximize and utilize the resources that are in place. But I hope our team, the goal would be that our team is making some of those big life events a little less scary, giving more information so that the employee feels like, oh, okay, so here's kind of the steps. Here's what I can expect in this process if all things went to plan.
Yeah, which they
don't. But at least you maybe have like here's some of the variables.
You got some boundaries maybe.
Yeah.
And I would like to share like a little bit about my own journey on some of that. When you talk about that employee resource and at the stage you guys are in your lives, you're having kids. There's lots of folks even behind there who maybe are a new dad or something like that. And there's lots of young parents in the company. For myself, one of the things that I experienced in the last couple of years, I have a pile of teenagers, and one of them was really struggling with some stuff between school and some social and mental health challenges, and that started to really impact me in the way that I was able to show up at work. It was really helpful first to talk to my manager, and the only feedback I get is, "Hey, take care. We'll get this sorted out. Work is important, but it's just work." And hey, I've had some stuff like that too. And then as that kind of situation evolved for me, it got harder before it got better. And I know that I engaged with the HR team, and I needed to look at, hey, how do my benefits help me out here? What kind of support can I get? Because, geez, I never thought of this when I signed up. But gosh, how does this fit in? And, the long and short of it is, I was tremendously supported by every single person I talked to here at the organization. And sometimes it was just, hey, my cousin, my husband, my uncle, me, I had that too. Boy, I got depressed and I had this thing, or I really had tough anxiety and I had to get some meds for it. But I'm getting better. And it was so wonderful to hear both like that destigmatizing of mental health around here, but just tremendous support, from the organization and the benefits package. Mm-hmm. It made a huge difference in my life as a specific individual. And I know for that particular kiddo, it's had a real and serious impact on their life. And that's important.
Yeah.
Because we have families, right? This ain't the only place we show up. We got to show up at home too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I appreciate what y'all do there.
Well, and I think there's two things that stand out there. One, I can't say that the HR team, we're not licensed therapists or counselors. That's not our specialty. Yeah, no. And that's good. that kudos to anybody in those professions.
Yeah,
that's a huge lift right now, and also a big focus. So what a challenging space and field for someone to be in right now. But I hope that whether it's through your experience or anybody else's experience, the fact that you can raise your hand and just say, hey, I'm going through something. And we do have resources. We do have an employee assistance program. And the thing we did last year, which I'm pretty excited about, is, generally our HR team supports more of the office, but this was a decision we made to offer this employee assistance program to the field employees too, because it's, I don't know, maybe it is a secret. It's no secret that construction from a field and a trade generally has higher rates of mental health issues. And that means that those are our people that are potentially going through something on their own. And the reality is they don't. So we do have some resources in place. So again, if you think about when can a field person contact us, hey, by all means, if you're going through something, that's fine. We won't be able to resolve it, but we definitely have a long list of contact and resources that might be relevant to the situation. So team, is the provider we use right now. And I think that's a huge, huge part. But I think the other piece is, you talk about mental health, or you can talk about HR, and sometimes it's, that's fluff, right? Like that's, I'm not naive to say, like, I know that is part of the conversation.
We've all said that, I promise.
Yeah. But I think, just because you're going through something, when I say hopefully our team or just in general employees, when we say we're actively listening, it doesn't mean that it needs to be a 30-minute conversation. It doesn't mean that you're asking somebody to spill all their guts and everything that's going on, but it might just be, hey, are you okay?
Yeah. And
paying attention to your people and saying, hey, you know what? I know you well enough to know something's off. Mm-hmm. You don't have to share with me, but if you want to go there, great. And if not, it sounds like, there are resources. I don't know what they are maybe as an employee, but HR might have some. So I think those are the two things that kind of stood out.
Yeah. And you said, sometimes it can be a little fluff. And I want to pull back the curtain on that just a fuzz. When we talk about some of the things that go on in the industry, especially for craft workers, the mental health issues, this is up to and including self-harm and suicide. Mm-hmm. And that happens. And that shit is terrible. And, it's really important to understand, like, you're not alone. This isn't for you to solve by yourself. Like, please, please, please just reach out. And to your point, Megan, if you see somebody who needs somebody to reach out to them, try and be that bridge.
Yeah.
It matters.
Yeah, it does matter. I think the one exciting thing that not just the HR team, but our safety group, and then also some of our manpower coordinators, field labor coordinators, we did go through last year first aid mental health training. And that was...
I remember seeing that.
That was something that was new. And I think sometimes, you think a particular field or a department maybe has a handle on all of those areas. And the reality is those individuals need training too. So it was hopefully a step forward for our whole organization, which I really think opened the door of, hey, we don't know all of the answers. We don't know how to handle all of the situations, but we can get you resources. And so whether it's HR or safety, for anybody listening, and those are two good contacts if something is going on.
For sure. Let's touch that third pillar. You talked a little bit about profit sharing and helping employees get set up for the future. This isn't meant to be sales pitchy, but, we've got folks everywhere, and the folks in North Dakota and over in Chippewa, like, we're all part of the same team, right? The national folks who are wandering all over the place, killing it, putting in work. What does that ESOP look like? Why do we have it? And how does that set us up for the future? And again, I want to pull on differentiators. How is that different than other places?
Sure. Yeah. I think for the profit sharing plan, it's similar in the ESOP sense where once you're in the plan, you're in it. You get to take part in these contributions that Hunt is putting into your retirement plan, the two separate ones. And again, 10,000-foot view, it's do your best, show up the way you'd want your team to show up, give your all, and be a good team player. And success, ideally, kind of the chips fall where they fall, and it happens. I think, what was the second part of your question then?
Like, how does this actually set somebody up for financial success and retirement in the future?
Yeah. And then also you had mentioned, how is that different?
As a differentiator.
Yeah. I think, really any organization could maybe identify how they want to support or fund a retirement savings plan. But I would say the thing that makes Hunt unique is that we still have, and again, these are office benefits right now, but we still have a 401k match. We still have profit sharing. And what I've seen maybe with some other organizations is once they make that transition from individual owners to maybe an ESOP structure, those other two things go away. So it's kind of a one or the other. And so I feel like that's what's unique about Hunt is that we do still have all three. We have a long journey ahead of us as far as the employee ownership mindset. We've had, it took a couple transactions to get to 100%. So even when you talk about an ESOP or employee-owned company, there's maybe different levels. You could be a minority owner with the ESOP being, less than or not the majority. But we eventually got to 100%. And that's also super exciting because it really does show and mean that we are truly all in it together. When you win, we win. When they win, we win. And that's great. That's a cool culture to be in.
I totally agree with you. And while there is that distinction between office and field employees, like it's still kind of hand in glove, that success. None of this matters if the craft workers in the field aren't doing their work, aren't supported in that work, don't have the great benefits to come to work and really show up like they want their team to. Yeah. And it's the same in the office. You got to show up.
Yeah.
And I think that, as you've said, like those benefits and the things that we're doing really help align us.
Yeah. And I think, we talk internally to customers and sometimes people will think, well, that just means external. But the reality is, no, that's actually not how that works. Customers are internal and external, and really supporting your customers means supporting the field or supporting somebody on a project who needs resources or something and doing it the quickest, most efficient way and making sure communication lines are open so that everybody, I think in general, the cool thing about our employees is that we have super talented, super smart people here, very, very highly motivated. I think we push hard sometimes. Yeah. We have high expectations for ourselves and our teams, and I think it's probably because we know that we can do that together. But that just means from a customer standpoint that changing maybe your lens a little bit, because at the end of the day, we are all supporting in one way or another. And it takes all of us to get there.
Heck yeah, it does.
Not just one team. So
yeah. All right. So about some supporting things. So we at this organization talk about our big, hairy, audacious goal, that BHAG, to be the most sought after partner in the industry. And I know that from some of our other work outside of this session, that we're both serving on teams to help support some of that stuff. When you think about the ways that you need to, in your role today, as leader of that HR team, what are ways that you're supporting that BHAG? How are you making sure that we're driving to that, I'm not going to say unattainable goal, but it's so big.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how will you know if you're ever there?
Mm-hmm.
We're still going to try. So what are the things that you're trying to do to support us in moving toward that BHAG?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things that stand out. I'd maybe bucket it into like 3 different buckets.
You seem to like doing this 3-bucket thing,
I know,
or pillars,
right?
or nuggets,
I am
or whatever.
kind of a list person. I mean, I might make a list to make a list.
Uh-huh.
My husband does joke, because he'll be like, "What do you want to do today?" Well, first I'm going to wake up. He's like, "That's an easy one, but I'll take it because I did it." Check.
Okay.
But I would say, so acquiring talent,
Mm-hmm.
so bringing top talent into our organization to continue the build of our current teams. It's not that we don't have it, because we definitely do have top talent, but we're growing, right? So we need new people to join the organization. So I would say that's one area that we're working to try and reach our BHAG.
Yep.
The other one would be development. We have had rapid growth over the last, really since I've been here. It feels like we've grown every single year.
And doubled and doubled.
Yes. And with that means lots of opportunities for new roles, just because as an organization, we have growth on pretty much every team.
Mm-hmm.
And also growth in the sense that maybe it's not the new role, but the role might look a little bit different because volume has changed, or we're taking on different types of markets. And it's just we're learning, or we're growing. Not everything is this oiled machine where it's rinse and repeat. That's not really, that might happen sometimes, but we're also doing lots of new exciting things too.
And we've expanded the business tremendously.
Yeah, and keeping a lot of that core business still there. But development, so that could be developing some level of expertise in someone's role. It could be maybe they want to take on being a people leader, and they might have some new people reporting to them. Yep. It could be leading different teams on a project, or ongoing. So lots of development focus. And then the third one I would say kind of relates to maybe more of that benefits package, and ensuring that as we're growing, we're not missing some of those key hunt culture pieces that really, I think, motivate people, that make this a long-term stable employer. So it might be benefits packages. It might be making sure that we do some employee surveys, and just making sure that we're not missing the pulse on a couple of things, because there's a lot of moving pieces every day. I think every employee, every single day, is balancing a number of multiple responsibilities. And we just don't want to make sure that we're not losing sight of what is allowing people to reach their potential, and what's supporting them to reach their potential.
All right. This is going to be a real brain burner, though.
Okay.
So all of those things that you just talked about, as a guy who's a carpet walker with soft hands, I understand how those things impact me here in an office environment. Now, let's talk about the field. How are we acquiring the right talent, developing those folks, with opportunities and expertise, and then really making sure that we continue to support and improve the culture on that side of things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a couple things that maybe come to mind. So I think it would be maybe silly to say HR is the sole group maybe responsible for bringing in talent, because we have so many great employees, so much depth within our industries that we're working in, that we need to leverage those conversations and those relationships. I mean,
the word of mouth and networking.
Yeah. And we do have an employee referral program, but it would be a miss, because when you're out talking to whoever you're talking to during the day, or when somebody in the field is working on a project and say they've had a really positive experience with other partners, I guess my goal, and I think this has been true to Hunt's core, but the way you show up not only internally, but also externally out in whatever network you're in, that's a potential opportunity for somebody else to know a little bit more about Hunt and to understand, hey, this might be a good culture fit for me. And maybe this is a new path and a new avenue. So I hope that, people are sharing some of the cool things that we're working on externally, because I do think that's going to open the door for somebody to learn about Hunt. And I think we know good people. We post and we're trying to expand the reach, like others are, but we also have so much depth here.
And I think that depth, especially when I think about it from a field perspective, not only is it showing up and doing your work in a workmanlike manner, but it's also about the way you carry yourself. And if we have good tools, if we have good break areas, if we have the things like a real safety program that lets us go home with 10 fingers and toes every day, that kind of stuff really speaks to and gets folks excited about, heck, I want to work over there. That looks great.
Yeah.
Maybe touch a little bit more on what are some things when we talk about developing talent in the field? What do we do to help grow those apprentices and JWs, the foremen? How do we cross-train some of those things? Because I hope there's some field workers listening to this and they're like, well, heck, I want to get some of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're currently working on developing some general foreman and foreman training. So not that that's going to tackle everything, because there's so many different levels, as somebody who's just joining the trades or maybe our organization, all the way to somebody who's been here for 30 years, but trying to expand, okay, what does that mean? So that people know, if I move into that next role, or am I interested? I don't know. What would it mean what would it mean if I were in that position, and what could I expect? Maybe what areas would I grow in or need to grow in? Because not everybody is stellar at every single thing, and that's just being human, and that's okay.
And even if they were stellar, sometimes they just don't want to.
Yeah.
I've had experience with a number of folks who are like, I really enjoy coming to work, working hard, putting in good hours, and then I want to go home. And I want to turn my phone off.
Yep.
And I think that's super duper acceptable. But for the folks that want to grow and maybe take on some more of that, we're providing some opportunity there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think this is something that every employee can do. But when you have new people on your team, or in maybe the project that you're working on, I think Jared had mentioned it, where he had said, I tell them, ask questions. That's how you learn. But I think that's a really great approach, because he even mentioned, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do it. If you have another way, that's great. Yeah. Sometimes I might say, thank you. Still going to do it my way. But at least the conversation is there, because we're talking about the why. And I think that's what develops that creates true development and understanding, is the why. And it's hard to balance the time, and we need to move, and I maybe can't go in depth at every single conversation, but hopefully there are moments where you're, able to give that why as an employee, helping somebody else learn and grow.
And so, again, I want to say it back to you, and I hope this does not tip over our COO, who is very particular about some of the craft worker relationships.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm hearing is you're supporting Jared's mentality, too, of ask some questions, challenge some of the status quo. I mean, there's a time to get in line and march, but let's continue to support that culture where it's okay to ask questions and really develop the folks who want that next opportunity and challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the other space where, there's opportunities for field development, we have very strong relationships with a lot of organizations that are in our wheelhouse and in our world. And there's a lot of effort that I think goes into attending not just events, but participating in the conversation to make sure that as not only Hunt, but as an industry, we're creating a platform where we can have people join this industry and stay and make it their career and have opportunities for development. So I don't want that to, be overshadowed or not be highlighted, because it's important.
And because we're going to pivot on that, when you think about your kiddo who is less than 3 years old.
Oh, yeah. I already told them we're practicing electrician, but that word is quite difficult for him.
All kidding aside, as you look forward to, when he is going to join the workforce, when he's exploring like interests and careers and things like that, as a parent, like, how are you going to support him?
Yeah.
Or there's maybe a neighbor you have and their daughter is 14 and she's thinking about her options. Like, how do you actively encourage and support folks coming into the trades?
Yeah, I think it all starts with the conversation and the exposure. There is not a one-size-fits-all style for a career. And I think sometimes people think like you have to go to college or you have to go embark on that journey. That can be great. And
For some folks it is.
And also there's other paths and there's this path and there's this path. And, honestly, you might try 5 different paths and that's okay. But I think just making sure that the part of the conversation includes the options. And I think also some opportunity to say, well, what really do you think you like? Because if you're 16, 17, 18, 20, 25, maybe you maybe don't even know what you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you haven't been exposed to. So hopefully that conversation is being continued. I know Keith just went to Roseville, I think, and did one of his presentations on just what could it mean, a career in construction or a career in the trades. And I think that's very important, at least for those who are about to embark on their first career path, whatever that looks like.
But you knew with certainty at like 13 years old, you wanted to be in HR.
No, I kept searching for this, like, somebody please tell me what to do. I think I took, all the assessments and it's like, well, you're kind of mediocre at everything. I'm like, okay, great. That's helpful.
Great.
So,
now what?
So no,
All
but
right.
I knew I liked people.
Okay.
And I knew I liked progress and the challenge.
Sure.
But I guess that's how I landed here.
I think I only have 2 more questions, but if you have some that you're burning to ask, you can.
Nope.
All right. As you were talking, I wrote down this note about not knowing everything. And what's your perspective? Maybe it's in this sort of career path development, or maybe it's as you train on things here at Hunt, whatever that is. Failure as a teacher. How do you view failure as a teacher in a positive way?
And by teacher, you mean whether that's whoever's giving maybe some guidance and information, mentor, it could be
or
manager.
You really screwed up and you failed on a thing, Megan?
Yeah.
How can you use that? And, what's your perspective on that and how do we support it here?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you have to own it. I don't think you have to dwell on it, but I think you have to own it so that others can learn. Whether you're in any spot or any role within the organization, hopefully, we can acknowledge it, own your mistakes. Let's figure out a plan, figure out what you're going to change so that it doesn't happen again, and then move on. And let's not do that again, but also let's move forward.
I want to be vulnerable and share a failure here at work.
Sure. I mean, I feel like there's a couple things, but I think it comes down to communication. I think as so many things are moving every day, all day, I think others can relate, but I maybe missed giving some key pieces of information of, oh, shoot, I honestly thought I told that person, but I told the other person, I didn't tell that person. So for me, I think communication stands out right now. And it's, you know what,
totally
you're right. I definitely forgot to include you or update you. That I recognize that would be very relevant to your space. I'll work on that and I'll try not to do that again. And if I do, please call me out on it.
Yeah. We're all human, right?
Yeah.
I've made that mistake. You've made it. We're both likely going to make it again at some point. But I think, owning that and just, saying I'm sorry and moving on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Trying to make it better.
Yeah.
I think the last question I have for you today is, who else do you want to see in that seat? Or maybe my co-host can come back one more time. We'll see. But who do you want to see or who do you want to hear from here at Hunt? Could be field leaders, could be non-leaders, could be anybody. Who do you want to see in the seat?
I mean, for me, definitely, I would say some field leaders, just because I don't interact as much. And for such a huge component and a huge area of our whole organization, that's a part where I'd love to hear more about that. Do
you want to submit questions for that episode on our next field leader episode?
Sure, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I have.
All right. We'll tell them it came from you, though, so they'll know it's a trick.
That's okay. I have to own it, right?
HR.
I have to own it. We just talked about ownership, so.
Right on. Yeah. Megan, thank you so much for being here. I hope you're a little bit more relaxed than when we first started.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben.
And
for anybody else who's next on here, it's not as bad. but it's okay to be nervous.
I appreciate that. But no, just thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your candor. Even though I wouldn't give you questions ahead of time and you didn't know what I was going to ask. It's been cool. And I hope everybody else learned things too. And that's it.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah. Thank you.